the thing was, it's a foster-based rescue. And so the only way to really introduce, foster babies to potential families is by having those families that, visit at the foster homes, which it's got pros and cons to that, right? Or visit at like PetSmart, where we set up like every other week at PetSmart. But the cats are in a loud, crowded environment. They're in cages. It's, thankfully we have that venue, but it's just not great, right? There's a lot of fallbacks to that. So we just kept saying, God, wouldn't it be great if we just had like a place? We had a place where the babies could be, and they live there, they're relaxed, they're comfortable, and then families could come visit them to see, who they love, who they fall in love with, and what type of relationship they can have with each other in a relaxed, comfortable, fun environment.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crazy People. I'm really excited to have Rob Stovall on with me today. He is one of the owners of Whiskers Soda, a new cat cafe that's just opened in Dallas, Texas. I'm looking forward to having these conversations, Rob, so why don't we just get in it? Why don't you give us a little bit of your background and what made you want a cat cafe?
Awesome. Great to talk to you finally, Alexis. And I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting us. So I'm Rob Stovall. My wife and I, Caroline, opened the cafe about 2 months ago. We have been involved with cat rescue for a long time. My wife is English, and she's lived in the United States for about 15 years. And when she came over here, she was surprised that the animal welfare laws were so different than they were in England. A lot less protection of animals here in the States than they are in England. And so that's why she started getting involved in the cat rescue. It actually began with just pet rescue, and it's kind of evolved into cat rescue. And she's had different roles in different cat rescues over the years, but eventually came to get to know Nancy Stevenson at A Voice for All Paws, and was very involved with that organization until Nancy moved to Oregon, and then Caroline took over as president of A Voice for All Paws. And so, I'm by default, by marriage, I'm involved with it. Now I'm very deeply involved with it. But the thing was, it's a foster-based rescue. And so the only way to really introduce, foster babies to potential families is by having those families that, visit at the foster homes, which it's got pros and cons to that, right? Or visit at like PetSmart, where we set up like every other week at PetSmart. But the cats are in a loud, crowded environment. They're in cages. It's, thankfully we have that venue, but it's just not great, right? There's a lot of fallbacks to that. So we just kept saying, God, wouldn't it be great if we just had like a place? We had a place where the babies could be, and they live there, they're relaxed, they're comfortable, and then families could come visit them to see, who they love, who they fall in love with, and what type of relationship they can have with each other in a relaxed, comfortable, fun environment. So it started like that. And then obviously we thought, okay, well, let's find a building, do this. And we looked at all these different ways of doing it. And then, we'd known about cat cafes in Europe and Asia. In fact, we'd been to one in London before, but we'd never kind of put those two together until just one day it dawned on us, like, that's exactly what we should do. We should open a cat cafe, which is the perfect venue for this. And so that's what we did. We started a long process of finding a building. First, we were going to do in combination with a vet, and we were going to have like a cafe and a vet together. But there's a lot of regulatory and other kind of issues with doing it with a veterinarian. So we just kind of abandoned that idea. And then we found the building, and we got builders involved. We demoed it, we created the cafe, and we did the high-end cat boarding next to it. And so here we are, 2 months of operation. So, and it's great so far. We love it.
That's awesome. What were some of the things that you've learned during the setup process that you weren't really expecting? Because we all go into like starting a business knowing there's going to be regulatory issues or compliance issues, but like, was there one particular thing that you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think that this was going to be something I'd have to address?
There's a handful. I'll do the biggest one first is the city of Dallas. Basically doesn't know what to do with us because we're kind of we're a unicorn, right? And they don't know how to handle unicorns. Are you a restaurant? Are you animal sheltering? Are you, what was the other thing? General retail merchandise. And so when we submitted our use statement, we were very clear at what we were doing. And our CO came back as a general retail merchandise. And we're like, okay, well, that's how they want to classify us. That's fine with us. And then, months later, even after we were opening, we received our certificate of occupancy, we're open. All of a sudden they're like, whoa. Who are you guys? And what are you doing? Right. Where it's very clear, you guys gave us
Somebody didn't read the paperwork.
They admit that they made a mistake, which that does me no good. So now they're trying to figure out what we are and how to handle us. And so I've had to hire a consultant to help me deal with the city to get a good resolution, because some of the proposals that they're saying are not good for the cafe. It would completely change the feel of it. And so we're in the middle of that process right now. I'm very hopeful that we can work out something that we can still have something very close to what we currently have, without wholesale changes. But I won't know until we actually get through the process, but I'm very hopeful. So that's probably the biggest one. The second one's like smaller, involved with the building, like asbestos. You come across asbestos and they have to do this in huge abatement program, which isn't in the budget. And so, $40,000 later, you get, nothing else that you can see, but you're asbestos free. Like, great. Parking lot the cost just kept building and building and building and building. Now, my wife and I have been very fortunate in life, in our careers, and to give us the chance to be able to do this. But man, it's a financial drain getting it to this point, and we're still struggling with how to pay for it all, because all these unknown things keep popping up all the time. But that's the cross we bear, and we're getting there. And we're very, very happy with the results, and I think the community is in love with the results as well. So all that's just kind of noise to get in the way of the end goal. So
right, end goal is always what you have to keep your eye on, right? And the eye on the prize. What's some of the feedback you're getting from the community?
95% 5-star. Just the kid. So on our grand opening, we held our grand opening on a Saturday from 12 to 3, and we had no idea what to expect. We thought, hopefully we told all of our friends and family to come. So we're like, maybe we'll get 100 people. We had 1,500 people come to the grand opening. 1,500 people. We didn't know how to deal with that. I mean, so we're making changes on the fly. Here's Razzles. Come on, baby.
You got a visitor. That's all right. We keep talking. Cat butt and all.
So we had to make, procedural changes on the fly. We're like, okay, we didn't have any cats in the cafe at the time because we knew it was a touring, and then we didn't want them to be stressed out, scared, that type of thing. So, but we had to start this like queuing system where we kind of brought in groups of 8 people with a guided tour and circle them out. And then people would wait outside. Then we had a tent outside with some free water and cat cookies. And then we kept just circling them in and out, and it was just a circus the whole day. My kids were manning the reception desk. I mean, it was nuts. And it's been like that from the start. I mean, that first week we were so busy. Our Saturdays and Sundays are usually at capacity all day long. Our weekdays are slower, but it's always like kind of an average of like maybe 8 to 10 people all day long, which is perfect. We love that amount. In fact, I know I'm rambling, but one of the things Okay. One of the things we learned is we originally had a capacity of 40 people, and we were open 7 days a week. And after the first 2 weeks, we're like, we can't do this. Like 40 people is way too many people. It's way too stressful for the cats, for the staff. It's not the environment that we want the customers to have. So we cut that down to 30. Because again, we're not trying to become millionaires off the, I mean, trust me, that will never happen. This is not a money-making operation.
Yeah. It's a passion project, right? Like that's what I tell people all the time. I'm doing this because this is the lifestyle I want to live.
And it's the impact, right?
Exactly.
The impact you want to have. And so, we're like, let's just take down to 30, and we close Mondays now. We'll close Mondays, just to give everyone a break. We even debated maybe even closing another day, but right now it's just Mondays. And I think it's good now. I think it's a nice, steady amount of people, 30 people we can handle. We've had to hire some more people to work in the cafe to kind of manage people, and kids especially. And the kids thing, man. I mean, originally, we said no kids under 8. And then if they were between 8 and 12, they needed adult supervision, or 8 and 16 or something like that. And we had to modify that day one, because these moms would come in with these kids, 3, 4, and when we told them that, they're too young to come into the cafe, just seeing their poor little faces, and the moms were great about it, but trying to explain to these little kids they can't go in and see the cats and kittens, it was devastating to us. So we modified that. Now kids are allowed in, but we have kind of strict protocol over that. So getting back to your question, the reviews, community response has been fantastic. You're always going to get a few negative reviews, and we have had a few negative reviews. I think we've had 7 negative reviews versus, well over 100 5 stars. But we take every single one of those reviews seriously. We answer it wholeheartedly. And if we feel like we need to make changes because of that review, we do, like the kid issue, we did. There's other kind of reviews which we don't understand how to deal with. Like they say, well, your cats seem bored and tired and lazy. Well, I'm sorry. When you go to the zoo, and if the elephant doesn't come out to see you, what do you do? You're not going to stand back there and prod the elephant. Go out. Customers want to see you. We're there for the cats, not for the people. So if they're tired that day, they're tired that day, and come back again for a different experience. So, but overall, it's been a fantastic response.
That's fantastic. I enjoy hearing these stories and like the lessons that you're learning already, like in such a short amount of time, because I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to kind of keep that in mind. It's not always going to work the way you expect it. You're going to have to pivot and change and adapt. And I will tell you, I visit a lot of cat cafes. So when you talk about, reducing your age limit for kids, I went not too long ago to a cat cafe here in Texas, and there was a mom and a little girl 3, 4 years old. And the mom is like, I'm allergic to cats. I can't have cats, but she loves them. And my favorite part of that visit, I love being around the cats, was watching this little girl, cat lady. Like, she was so good with the cats. She was like, and she had it, right? Some people just know how to communicate with cats. And so I was like, oh, this mom really understands, like, this is someone who's going to love cats for a lifetime. And she wants to start that early. So I'm sure that she's not the only one, right? And so the more you introduce young children to pets, I think the more empathetic they become.
100%.
So it's one of those moments that will stick with me forever, because it was the cutest thing to watch this little girl. And all the cats kind of, I don't know, because they were so little too, like if they're just attracted to little people, they're like, hey, we're kind of the same age. Let's hang out together. So
they totally
really
do that. Cats and kittens love kids. They love kids. And we feel the same way. A lot of times we have to intervene to try to, for the kids that don't know how to communicate with cats and how to, cooperate with cats, because sometimes the parents, unfortunately, look at it's like daycare. They go with some friends and they're sitting there drinking their coffee and eating their scones, and the kids are running around like crazy. And so we have to intervene at that point to say, sit down with the kids, like, here, let me show you how to do this. You're scaring the cats. The cats never come to you. If you want the cat to come to you, here's how you get the cat to come to you.
Mhm.
It's just a learning process, and they're sponges, so they get it really quick. So
Yeah, I love that. That's very cool. So, what are some of the benefits of opening a cat cafe? You talked a little bit about background inspiration. I know you come from a lifelong relationship with caring for animals. But for people who are not familiar, I think, we're talking about these individuals that come for just an experience, right? And they're not there to really adopt. They just want to have a unique experience. But there's a benefit to having cat cafes. And I think people need to hear that from us, right?
so yeah, I would say the majority of our visitors don't come to adopt. It's like when you go to the zoo. It's an experience, right? In fact, a few of the negative reviews in the beginning we had were like, well, why do I have to pay to go to a cafe? I can go to Starbucks. We're like, you can absolutely go to Starbucks, but you're going to get a coffee. You're not coming to get a coffee. You don't come to Whiskers and Soda to get a coffee. You come here for the experience, right? And so it's training the public and the customers on how that works and why that is, and the difference between us and just a normal kind of coffee bar. Um, but again, most of the people that come are not looking for a cat to take home. They just want to have the experience of hanging out with the cats in their environment. And these cats, you'll see people come in and they're just coming to work, and the cats just gravitate toward them and hopefully not walk on their keyboard, but come up and just start, rubbing against them, and they just you can just see the stress levels just come down. It's very therapeutic, in my opinion, to have cats around, and because they're always looking for love and attention, and they're always so giving and forgiving. And people love that. They love that in their life if they don't have that outside their life. And so I think people just get a lot out of it emotionally and spiritually when they come to the cafe and get to hang out with cats and kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I have my own cats at home, and I still like to go visit with other cats.
Right.
I enjoy meeting cats. They all have different personalities, and so
100%.
it's one of those things for me. I just like, hey, let's go make some new friends today.
So we have 6 cats of our own, and but we also foster for Worcester Paws. So we have, I think, 24 cats in the house right now, and most of them are kittens, and so they're in individual, rooms, bedrooms, where we care for them. But we just love meeting the new kittens that come in and helping them grow and be loving, social, healthy, babies to move into the cafe and find their forever home. So
Yeah. So how many adoptions have you had so far in 2 months?
well, I can't give you the number, but it's a lot. In fact, we've adopted out so many adult cats that we only have 4 cats in the cafe today. So we're like, and this all happened like we've slowly been adopting them, but some of the cats that have been there from the beginning, like for 2 months, have all been adopted over the last 2 weeks, and that's fantastic.
Right.
But now we're like, crap, we need some more cats. So we got a lot of kittens. We got because it's kitten season, as you know, and so we got a lot of kittens, and we got 12 kittens in the cafe, which people love. And again, we've got a house full of kittens here that are starting this week, are going to start moving to the cafe. But we need to reach out to our fosters for the adult cats that are ready, socially ready, and health wise to go into the cafe. And so we'll get that inventory back up by the end of the week. But like two went home yesterday that have been there for 2 months, and then 2 went home the day before that, both paired adoptions, which we adore. So yeah, we've had a lot of adoptions. So that's working well.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I like that, it's not just the kittens getting moved out, which is always the case. Everybody loves a kitten, but I love to see that the older ones are getting their day in the sun, right? And people are really bonding with them. So
it's so funny too, because some of the cats sometimes you take them to the cafe and they're like, cool, here I am, and then just own the place, right? Others, like we had two brothers, Panda Bear and Fendi. They went in the first week and they lived in the litter box for literally 2 weeks. They would not leave the litter box. They were just so scared and timid. And then one day we went in and they're in the cafe. We're like, oh, hey guys. And then they never looked back, and they became some of the most lovey, sought after, fun cats in the cafe. Just they decided, you know what, this ain't so bad. So it's funny how they decide that on their own, you know?
Yeah.
Just have patience with them. So
I mean, I think it's a good point too for people who are looking to adopt. Like, you're not, sometimes it takes a little while for cats to warm up to their location. And maybe you need to visit multiple times before you commit, because you might get a different personality depending on the circumstances. I know cats are very tied to location. So, when they're moving around, it gets really difficult for them. And so, yeah, if it takes them a couple of weeks to warm up, it's going to be the same thing when you move them to your house. And so give them that time. Don't get frustrated. They'll come around. They always do. I'm very patient. I have one. It took her about 4.5 months before she was like, she would hide behind the washer machine, which I was like, I hated that she was back there. I wish there was something I could have done to like bring her out. But just, one day she's like, you know what? I'm tired of hanging out back here. Let's go see what this world is about. And so
everyone else seems like they're having fun out there. Let me go see what's going on.
yeah, she warmed up. And then, it took her, it was really interesting because she also, and I, again, I don't know her history. I adopted her. She was about 1.5 years old when I got her. Have no idea what her life was like before she came to my house. And so she does not like men, and she does not like people staring at her. So like she gets this like weird like twitch. She's like, don't stare at me till to this day. And so it's like really funny to watch like that personality kind of still exists, but exists in a way where she's comfortable with it. Like she's accepted, like, this is just how I am. We're all, all the cats are used to how she is, the family. So we try not to make too much eye contact.
I know you're there.
Exactly. But she's so quirky and fun to watch. So, you just never know what you're going to get. They're all different personalities. I think that's great. So what's the future plans for the Cat Cafe? I know it's early on. We got 2 months. You've already had to do a lot of adjusting. But what's the long-term goal?
Well, it's a great question, Alexis. I don't, even despite my wife and I being, business people, I don't think we had a long-term goal. Are you there?
Yes, sorry, I can hear you.
Sorry,
can you not see me? I see you.
Okay. There you go. You're back.
All right.
We didn't have I was so focused on the short term, like how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to get up and running? How long is it going to take for us to fund this before it can start paying for itself? That I never really thought, what's this going to be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? My wife probably did, because she's way smarter than I am. And our vision's now evolving a little bit. Believe it or not, we've been approached to by like a business partner who wants to open up a lot of these. They think that the city of Dallas-Fort Worth area could have 5 of these. Like, we're not in the suburbs, we're kind of downtown, not downtown, but in what's called East Dallas. And the suburbs have to be a huge market for this, because we have people coming from the suburbs all the time. So there's definitely capacity to have, more Whiskers and Sodas in other parts of the city and in Fort Worth. And so, just thinking about it makes me tired, Alexis.
I'm sure.
Just so much
it's work. Like a blessing and a curse to have this kind of opportunity. I get it.
But again, I think we've learned so much from this one that operationally it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's the cats. It's, we are exclusively worked through a Voice for All Paws. and you can only process and get so many cats, right? Now, one of the things that's going to help a ton is when we bought this building for the cafe, there were 2 buildings. We bought them both. And so the building in the front on the main road, on Garland Road, is the cafe and the boarding facility, Griffin Rock Cat Retreat. The back building is half boarding and it's half AVAP, a voice for all paws. And so that's where all the intake is going to be. We have quarantine rooms for ringworm, quarantine room for upper respiratory, and we have individual boarding for cats that come through. So we're trying to expand our capacity for caring for the cats, other than relying on fosters and our house. And so we think that's going to be a fantastic kind of funnel, that we'd be able to intake and care for more cats and get them healthy and ready to go into the cafe. But if we were going to open multiple locations, we either would need to partner with other rescues, but then you lose a lot of control over the vetting and the socialization, and because we're very strict about all that. And you either need to find a partner you can trust really and understand their protocols that they're getting great cats, and cats ready to be in an environment like that, or you have to grow AVAP to process more cats. And so that to me would be the challenge for opening more cafes, but we are at least starting to think about that, and see if that's possible or not. Now, the high-end boarding we could definitely replicate. That'd be easy. We can build 5 of those quick, because that's just a retail model, right? I mean, it's just, we're already getting a name for ourselves, and I think we're getting good traction. So, but it's the cafe itself that to me is the hard part with the cats.
So do you have to have separation between your animals and the cafe in your setup?
100%. The boarding is complete separate suite, if you will, in the building. So it's separated by walls, has a separate air conditioning system, separate entries. It's completely separate businesses, just in the same building, separated like you would go to a suite, right? And it's much more high tech because we have cameras in every room, so that lodgers can watch their cats 24/7. They even talk to them on the camera and listen to them if they want to. Every boarding room is 5 by 6 by 8. It's got its own TV, looping pictures of squirrels and mice and birds and stuff like that to keep them occupied. Every room's connected, so if they have 5 cats and they want multiple rooms, we can open doors between them so they can go between all the different rooms. They all have their own individual filtration system, so they don't share any air with any of the other cats in the boarding. It's all fresh radiated air coming in from the front and filtered as it goes out. So a lot of thought has gone into the boarding side because, we've never been comfortable boarding our cats because we've never found anywhere that we felt comfortable leaving them in. It was always like, a metal kennel cage at a vet's office with, next to sick cats and dogs and just loud. And that's not a relaxing environment for a cat. And so there were a few that were kind of like this, but they didn't take it to the, nth degree like we always seem to. So
that's good. You're taking into consideration all those things that us cat owners are really looking for. I find it difficult to leave mine too, even just finding people to come to my own home, so I don't have to move them. It's really challenging to find caregivers specific to cats and cats' needs. So
absolutely.
I think that's great. I can't wait to come to Dallas and visit your facility. I'm looking.
I can't wait to have you up here. Just let me know when you're coming.
I'm gonna have to. My son does some karate stuff, so I've been planning some tournaments in Dallas, maybe the end of the year. So October time frame, maybe I'll make my way.
Oh, we would love it.
That's very cool. So before you got into this, and I know you're you're married into the animal community, what were you doing before?
So I'm a retired CFO. Both my wife and I.
We have something in common.
No way. How cool. That's hilarious. We can make accounting jokes. like I always say about myself, fully depreciated, still in use. So no one listening who's not an accountant will appreciate that.
You'll be surprised.
I was, I started out after grad school. I went into banking, and then I went into restructuring, crisis management consulting. I did a lot of interim management, and I did that for literally 25 years. And then a client of mine hired me out to be their CFO. And then I did the CFO thing for like maybe 9 years after that. And then my wife had her own accounting consulting company that she started on. She was a partner at an accounting firm and hated it and decided she'd do it on her own better. And so she started her own, and she ran that for a few years and then sold that to a big accounting firm. And we kind of looked at each other and we're like, we don't really have to work anymore. So I retired. She had to keep working because they tied her in with her sale of her company. She's got about 1.5 years left on that commitment. And so I was doing all of our personal stuff. I was playing a lot of golf. I was caring for cats. And then she is like, oh, I've got this idea. And so now I'm full-time.
The rest is history.
Right.
That's fantastic. It's really funny to me how many people I talk to from the accounting background that are getting into the cat community space. You guys are not the only cat cafe owners who come from a CFO background.
No
so
way.
In Houston, if you ever get around there, there's a cat cafe, El Gato Coffee House. And so Renee, the owner there, she is also an ex-accountant.
No way. How funny.
So what is it about us accountants and going into cat cafes?
I guess our life is so boring. We're looking for some type of excitement in it. I don't know.
I think you're onto something there. Oh, I find that very fascinating. I'll be dwelling on that for a minute. So we talked about daily operations a little bit, but what's the process for people to come visit the cat cafe? Do they need to book time? Do you just walk on in? Let us know.
So we're a membership model.
Okay.
And so you don't have to be a member, but if you are a member, that gets you different privileges. One of those is making reservations. So you're always assured you can get in when you want to get in if you're a member. It's very rare. If you're a member and you can't get in, then we need to open another cafe somewhere because and maybe that's going to happen in the near future. But right now, if you're a member, you can get in whenever you want. You also get discounted hourly rates. If you're a member, depending on your level of membership, we have 5 different membership, anywhere from Tabby, which is the lowest, to Maine Coon, which is the highest. And then you get free coupons for drinks and food and discounts and all that type of stuff. All these kind of freebies you get from your membership. Now, if you're not a member, you can still come to the cafe on a walk-in basis, but that's subject to availability. And so, right now we have many people that try to do walk-in on the weekends, and they just can't get in, or they have to wait for 30 minutes or an hour in order to get in. On the weekdays, it's much easier to get in walk-in still. And I imagine that will always be the case. Weekdays be easier to get in. But I tell you what, if you're not a member in the future, it's going to be tough to get in on Saturday or Sunday or a holiday, right? And we don't know what the summer's going to be because we've never been open for a summer. And my staff, my managers keep telling me we got to staff up. And I'm like, I don't want to staff up yet until I know we're going to be busy. But this week, Mother's Day was so busy. And then Monday after Mother's Day the Tuesday was busy as well. So maybe we're going to be busy. But yeah, so you can visit as a member, you can visit as a non-member, and there's different benefits to each. So
you talked a little bit about taking risks, right? So staffing up. How do you get to a point where you feel comfortable like making those calls? Because I think every business owner has to if you don't, there's this. If you do, there's another issue, right? If things don't work out. So what do you guys go through from a decision-making strategy standpoint when having to deal with those kinds of risks?
Well, I'm definitely not if you build it, they will come. So I do not want to overstaff unnecessarily. So I probably push it a little bit more than I should. I wait for my staff to tell me dude, this is crazy. We need another person. And so then we bring on another person. Now the staffing model right now is pretty simple because on the weekends, we always have 2 baristas there full time. And we always have a cat handler, this is what we call them, roaming the cafe, monitoring the cats and kittens and all that type of stuff. And then we always have a front desk receptionist, and we always have at least 1 manager on site, if not 2, and then 1 cat care person who is doing all the cleaning and the boxes and feeding and all that type of stuff. On the weekdays, we typically only have 1 barista at a time. As the summer comes, we might move that to 2 baristas in the evenings and 1 during the day, but we're just going to have to see. And I told the staff, look, you might be busy. We're trying to line up part-time baristas now so that if we do get busy and we do need somebody, we can quickly bring someone in on a part-time basis to help fill some gaps. But so to me, that's the key, is being ready for it, is to not spend your money ahead of time needlessly, but to be prepared for in case you do need to do that. So that's kind of the way we're approaching it. And, I'm a rookie, I'm learning as I go, so I could be doing this wrong, but I think so far that's been okay.
Yeah, I think what's working for you is working. So don't say you're a rookie. You're just an entrepreneur trying something new. That's what we do, right? Oh, I think I think you guys are doing fantastic for 2 months. I'm sure there's going to be lots of learning curves down the road. The other thing, and you're not the only person I've talked to about partnering with, other rescues being an issue, a challenge. It's something I'm running into here in Austin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's one of the reasons why we have not opened our doors yet. It's because finding the right partner. And you mentioned all like the vetting process. Like everybody has their own vetting process, and like you have to feel so comfortable with who you're working with, because it does get complicated when you bring multiple vendors, for lack of a better term, into the relationship. And so
100%.
yeah, so definitely those are areas that I'm focused on right now.
Like every single one of our cats is fully vetted, fully vaccinated. It's gone through quarantine for 2 weeks to make sure, treated for worms, getting all making sure it doesn't have any communicable or contagious issues. Goes through that entire protocol before we even really let it introduce to any other cats, whether it's in the cafe or not. And then the foster's responsibility is to socialize them and to make them sweet, loving, fun, craving human companionship cats. And we're very, very picky about that. And it's just hard finding rescues that do it the same way. So I feel your pain. And unfortunately, I think that we're gonna have to grow a voice for all paws in order to help it. But God, that's so hard. Finding fosters and is always hard, and it's just a hard process.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're in any kind of welfare business, right? Whether it's animals or humans, it doesn't matter. Like there's that element of empathy that just gonna constantly be there, and you're trying to do the right thing for the individuals you're caring for. In this situation, it's the cats, and that they need a certain quality of life and they need to have certain experiences, and so you want to make sure they get that, right? So that they can last. You never want somebody to return their animal that they adopt. That's always a fear, or anything else to happen to them, and so you want to put their best foot forward, so to speak, right?
100%. We just had a baby return to us recently. This litter of 5 kittens, and they all looked identical, and they were all the most lovely kittens. They were, some kittens and cats you have that you're just like, oh, these guys are kind of jerks. Others you fall in love with. I fell in love with all 5 of these, and sometimes it's hard letting them go. And this one was my second favorite of the litter. And she got adopted this wonderful family that we fully vetted. Vetted, not in a veterinary term.
Yeah.
Vetted, and they were, and the mom and dad and the kids, and they were great, and we loved them and everything. 2 weeks later, they're like, we've got to return Ferrari because she's not using the box. She's marking. She's going different. She's knocking along with her other cats. And that is not her, man. That was not her. So we're like, absolutely, we'll take her back. And took her back. In fact, the family felt so bad they gave like a big donation to Voice for Our Paws. Put her upstairs in the kitten room with a whole new group of new kittens. She's good as gold. She's good as gold. I mean, she purrs when she just looks at you, and she always uses the box and plays fun with everyone else. So you don't know what the circumstances are at that house and why she was doing what she did, but it was not the right place for her. So you hate getting them back, but in the end of the day, it's the right decision, and we'll find her, a place that she's more suited for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good assessment, and good for people to hear who are, thinking about adopting, because it doesn't always work out the way you think. No. And that doesn't mean you don't try again. If you're still interested in a cat, it may just not be the right one. So.
And like you said, sometimes it takes weeks or maybe even a month for a cat to get adjusted to its new home and its new surroundings and new people and everything. So you got to give it a chance. But don't be afraid to say, this is not working. This is not good for us or the cat. So.
Yeah. So do you guys name all your fosters? How do you pick your names?
Yeah,
This is one of my favorite questions to ask people about their cats. How do you name your cats? And I'm just going to throw another side question. What's the weirdest cat name you've ever come across?
My favorite that we came across that we or a foster created was Obi. And her name was Wanda, but we called her Obi Wanda. I just loved that name, Obi Wanda. Obi. That was my favorite name. Weird. I don't know. I mean, it's funny. One of our fosters is a musician, so every cat has a musician name, like Paul McCartney, Jethro Tull. I mean, they're all musicians. We struggle with names. We're big kind of like Lord of the Rings, fans, and Game of Thrones, and so we go through all our different shows, name them all after that. Right now, one of ours is named Aragorn. If I had him in here, I'd show you. He's the most beautiful little kitten. So you just have to find themes. Like Ferrari, that group was called the Exotics because it was like Ferrari, Maserati, all the different Porsche, all the different cars. So you just find a theme and you go for it. It can be a challenge sometimes. You're like, God, seems like we've run out of names, but then you come up with like a whole new category. So
yeah, absolutely. My daughter right now, I'm trying to convince my husband to get another cat. That's another side story. But my daughter wants to name the next cat we get Barbara Streisand. And I'm like, it doesn't go with our theme, but I may just let it happen because, at some point you do have to give up the throne. You can't name all the cats. Right. All of our cats in the last 20 years have been named after Quentin Tarantino film characters. So we went through the Jules Winfield. I still have a Vincent Vega. We have a Mrs. Mia Wallace. And then we moved into the Inglourious Bastards movie. So we had Hugo and Aldo, so we just kind of make our rounds. But Barbara Streisand might sneak in there next. I don't know.
I love it. Our two oldest ones are Razzles and Skittles, obviously, after Cat and Candy. And then we have Diva and Stumpy. Stumpy because he only has 3 legs. And Diva because she is literally a diva. She's a snowshoe Siamese. She's just the biggest diva you've ever seen in your entire life. So she's very well named.
She struts everywhere she goes, huh?
Oh my God, she owns us, and then we got Sunday because we found her outside on a Sunday. That's probably the worst name, but she's still cute. And then Rosie's our baby. She's like Rosie. 6 months old. So she was named after Peaky Blinders, Rosie.
See, yeah, you're right. You just got to pick a theme and go with it. Yep. Well, any final words for our listeners if they're in the cat community or thinking about starting their own cat cafe?
Well, if you're in the DFW area, we'd love to see you at the cafe. So reach out and we'll make sure you can get in. For anybody looking to start it on your own, I just say have a huge financial what if bag, because stuff pops up all the time that you're not ready for, that you don't really have a choice on if you want to do it right. I'll also say one of the comments that we constantly get about our cafe is how nice it is, right? Because we've been to a lot of cat cafes, and first of all, a lot of them aren't really cafes because they don't have food. Second of all, they're very sparse, right? I mean, they're kind of like a cheap build out, and I get it. I get it. We're all doing this for the reasons of the cats, and not everyone has the money to put into it for a type A build out. But because we did spend so much money on it and we made it so nice, people freak out about it, and they constantly comment about how nice it is. And I think that helps drive business. I think we get a lot of people just because it is so nicely built out. We hired a veterinary builder called MedTech, who that's all they do is they build dental businesses and veterinary businesses, because we wanted it to be veterinary grade. So everything is, cleanable, everything's solid surface, everything's sealed. And so it cost a lot of money to do that, but I think in the long run and for the cat safety, that's exactly, the right decision. So, so don't skimp on the stuff that are important to the people that come. And then always remember why we're in this, right? I mean, our mission statement is to find loving homes for our fur babies. That's what our sole purpose is. I hope it can pay for itself. It looks like it's going to, and I'll be super happy about it. And I love employing people, and I love bringing joy to people that love to come and get that experience. But our mission statement is finding loving homes for our fur babies. And don't ever lose track of that. Don't do it for the business. Don't do it for the money. Don't do it for any other reason than your love of the community and what you're trying to do for the babies and the good that you do in the world, which will hopefully ripple out there to all points on the earth. So anyway, it's my little preach, I guess.
I love it. Well said, Rob. Well said. Thank you so much for being with me today. It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot about Whiskers and Soda and you and your wife, and I hope that you've got many, many, many years ahead of you in the cat cafe industry. So cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, and thanks so much for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you.